Okay, Dr. Hooksma back here with part 2 of your review of bird taxonomy. And this part 2 is all on order Passeriformes, which is the perching birds. And this contains 4 pages of your handout. We're going to start with family Tyrannidae, which is the flycatchers. And we have 5 species that you need to know here. And let's start with the biggest. Great crested flycatcher is a bird that should be pretty obvious. It's got a gray breast, yellow belly, and a rusty colored tail. And it's a big bird. All of the flycatchers have this triangular shaped bill that they use to snap insects that are flying in the air, snap them right out of the air. That's a flycatcher bill. The other big flycatcher we have is eastern kingbird, which has a little patch of color in the crown that is often hidden. It's also got a white tip on the tail, and otherwise it's basically a black and white bird. It's a large black and white flycatcher. Next in size is the eastern phoebe, which is not as big as an eastern kingbird. It's got more yellowish on the breast and a little bit of a vest pattern on the breast, and no obvious really large wing bars. It's got maybe faint wing bars on the wings and no eye ring. Next is eastern wood pewee, which has obvious wing bars and is generally a grayish bird on the back and vested color on the front with a little bit of greenish. And then over here, you have a bird that is much more greenish on the back. That is the Acadian flycatcher. It's got obvious wing bars, and if it wasn't dead and stuffed with its eyes plucked out, you could see that it has an obvious eye ring as well. But notice the greenish back compared to the grayish back of the eastern wood pewee. Acadian flycatcher, eastern wood pewee. Okay, moving on to family Laniidae, which is the loggerhead shrike. You don't need to know the genus and species. Loggerhead shrike, notice that it has a raptorial bill, a hook-shaped bill, because it's a predator. It's got a black mask and a gray back, and otherwise is very black and white colored. Compare that quickly with northern mockingbird, which we're going to take a look at here in a minute. Northern mockingbird is also gray and white, but it has a very different shaped bill. I'll come back to that in a minute. All right, next are the vireos. I want you to know 3 species of vireos. First of all, white-eyed vireo, which you can't see the white in the eye of these because they don't have eyes, but you can see that they have a yellow spectacles. So a little yellow patch in the lores, which connects a yellow eye ring across their face to make spectacles. And you can see that on that bird too. They've got a little bit of yellow on the flanks as well, and greenish on the back. Compare that to Acadian flycatcher. Somewhat similar bird, but Acadian flycatcher doesn't have that yellow in the lores and doesn't have nearly so much yellow on the flanks. Next is yellow-throated vireo, which has an obvious yellow throat and white wing bars and a white belly. All 3 of these vireos have a vireo-shaped bill, which is fairly long and pointed and has a little hook at the tip of the upper mandible. So notice that on all of these birds. That little hook at the tip of the upper mandible, that's a vireo thing. There it is on yellow-throated vireo. And let's look at the bill of the white-eyed vireo. Kind of a thick, fat bill compared to a warbler, for example, and not nearly as broad and triangular as the bill of a flycatcher, which I'm showing you here. Okay, and then here we have red-eyed vireo, which is the largest vireo that we have. And it's a pretty plain bird with a subtle olive green back and a gray crown with a little white stripe over the eye. And that big, long, hook-tipped vireo bill. All right, next is family Corvidae. And this is represented by 3 species. We've got American crow on the right, fish crow on the left, and blue jay. The main thing here is to just notice the fish crow is a smaller bird with a smaller bill, proportionally smaller bill. American crow has kind of a proportionally bigger bill compared to the head, compared to the fish crow. And blue jay is just a really obvious bird with a crest and patches of blue, white, black, and gray all over its body, especially highly patterned wings and tail. Horned lark is in its own family. This is family Alaudidae, and this is a subtle bird. I want to just point out a couple of things that you can look for. It kind of looks like a sparrow in that it's brown and streaked, but it's got these subtle little black mailer stripes here that come down from the bill, and that's probably the best thing to look for to tell these guys from a sparrow. They're bigger than a sparrow, than most sparrows as well. All right, Hirundinidae is the family of swallows, and we only have one swallow species represented in our collection, and that is the purple martin. And these are both young purple martins. You can just see a little bit of the bluish, purplish color coming in on their heads. These are birds with long pointed wings and long pointed tails as well. Purple martins are really early migrants. There were some returning to Mississippi already back in February. And they're really great flyers, and they fly around the air, opening their bill to catch insects out of the air. And a lot of people put up gourds or other type houses for them. Next is family Paridae, which is the chickadees and titmice. We have two species here that you need to know. Carolina chickadee, which has a tiny little straight bill, black cap and a black throat, and then tufted titmouse, which has a similar bill shape, although it's a little fatter. Black forehead, little rusty flanks, and overall a grayish bird that's a little bit bigger than that chickadee. Next family you can skip because that's the tree creepers, the Certhiidae. That's brown creeper, which we don't have. Family Troglodytidae is the wrens, and you do need to know that, especially Buick's wren, which is a super common bird. Especially Carolina wren, which is a super common bird in Mississippi. That is a big wren. Wrens in general have a long pointed, sort of slightly down curved bill. And this bird, Carolina wren, is chestnut colored on the top and buffy colored, which is a creamy, warm brown color on the belly. These are all Carolina wrens right there. There's a darker individual. Buick's wren is different. This is an extra credit species. It's a smaller, slimmer wren. It has part of its lower mandible missing. It's got a finely striped tail, but it doesn't have this this buffy color on the belly. It's a plain white underneath and not as warm of a rusty color above. Blue-gray gnatcatcher is sort of wren-like. It has a similar shaped bill. Let's look at one here. Kind of a long, slightly down-curved bill. It's a tiny little blue-gray bird with a long black and white tail that it flips around really actively when it's feeding. So its tail is black on the top. See that bluish-gray back and white underneath. That's blue-gray gnatcatcher, which is in the family Polyoptilidae, the gnatcatcher family. Next is family Regulidae, the kinglets, which we don't have in the collection. So let's move on to family Turdidae, the turd family. We have 4 species represented here. These are the thrushes and their relatives. Eastern bluebird is a pretty obvious bird. It's got chestnut color. The adult males have big patches of chestnut color in the breast and upper belly, and then they're blue all over on the upper parts. And younger birds and females are duller, but similar. Then we have 2 thrush species. Wood thrush has really round, clean-looking spots, kind of like a northern flicker. And if you turn it over, its brightest chestnut color is on the head, and elsewhere it's kind of a more plain olive green color, sort of chestnut up here, fading to olive green on the tail. And the opposite on hermit thrush, where the spots are more diffuse and the brightest chestnut color is on the tail and not on the head or the back. And then we have a fourth species in this family, which is the American robin. Males are more richly colored chestnut and darker colored blackish or grayish on the upper parts. Females are duller, like these two birds here. And then the juvenile American robin is spotted like a thrush. So don't get that bird mixed up with those thrushes there. All right, moving on to page 9, we're going to look at the mimic thrush family, thrashers and mockingbirds, which is Mimidae. We have 3 species here. Gray catbird is the smallest of the 3. It's a sleek gray bird with a black cap and rusty undertail coverts. It's a subtly beautiful colored bird. Next largest is northern mockingbird, which is gray and black and white, with white in the tail and white in the wings, but overall fairly plain, dirty gray. Watch out for that juvenile bird that's streaked almost like a thrush. And then we have brown thrasher, which is a bright rich chestnut color above with chestnut brownish streaks down the breast. So compare that to juvenile American robin and compare that to the thrushes. Thrashers have, and other mimids have a longer, more pointed, down-curved bill compared to the bills of the Turdidae family, which are a little bit straighter, a little bit shorter. These bills are a little bit more generalistic. They are a little bit more predaceous. They eat berries and other animals. All right, so that's the Mimidae family. Oh, I forgot the Citidae, the nuthatches, didn't I? Let's go back up towards the top of page 8 where I missed the nuthatches. We've got 2 species of nuthatches, the family Citidae. We've got white-breasted nuthatch, which is the biggest. It's blue-gray above with a black cap and black nape, and then chestnut in the belly and flanks. And then we have the tiny little brown-headed nuthatch, which is grayish on the back and with a brown crown. And all of the nuthatches are long, slim birds with fairly short tails and long bills. And they're fairly straight and pointed, and they use these bills to probe into trees and tree bark in the case of the white-breasted nuthatch. And the brown-headed nuthatch is a specialist on pine trees, and they eat seeds out of pine cones and probe for insects as well. Okay, now moving on to page 9 again, and our final stretch here. Family Sternidae is the starlings. This is the European starling, which is an introduced bird in North America, and we have 2 different plumages here. We have adults, which are this bright iridescent color with white spots. And then these birds here, these are brown juveniles. But notice their overall shape, which is stocky birds with short tails and a fairly long pointed straight bill, kind of like a blackbird, but they're not a blackbird. Family Bombacillae is the cedar waxwings. These are really distinctive, sleek, silky looking birds with brownish on the head and breast, and yellowish bellies, yellow tips to the tail feathers, and grayish tails and wings. These are berry-eating birds that really like red berries. They also have a crest and a little black mask, a really striking bird. Okay, let's look at the warblers now. This is our tray of warblers. I'm going to run through some required warbler species and then a few extra credit ones. Starting with Prothonotary warbler. Prothonotary warbler is a tricolored warbler. It's got a yellow head and breast, greenish back, and white in the tail, with some blue-gray color on the wings and tail as well. So I guess it's got 4 colors, but I guess the point is it's got big patches of color, not a lot of subtle striping or small patches or spots. Big, bold, yellow, green, grayish, and whitish. Kentucky warbler has, where is it? Kentucky warbler. Kentucky warbler has a black face mask. It's a yellow bird on the underparts all the way down to the tail. When you turn it to the side, you can see that it has a nice subtle black face mask and a black crown. And that black face mask comes to a point in the back, almost with a shape that's like the state of Kentucky. That's how I remember that one. And it's not over and through the eye, it's below the eye, and then with a black crown as well and a yellow stripe over the eye. Contrast that with the common yellowthroat, which has a full black mask and no yellow over the eye and more of a square mask. And then the yellow on the common yellowthroat doesn't go all the way down to the undertail. It's got a little bit of yellow down there, but it's not a full bold yellow underneath like the Kentucky warbler is. Hooded warbler, adult males have a nice obvious hood, which is yellow face, yellow forehead with a black hood on the top and throat. So the hood is black, composed of the black crown and black throat. That's hooded warbler. Northern Parula is our smallest warbler. This is a tiny little bird, which is bluish gray in color and has greenish olive green on the back and a melange of colors on the breast, including this a yellow stripe below a rusty stripe. Tiny little bird with a tiny little bill. This is, I should have said, family Parulidae, right? This is the wood warbler family. Pine warbler is where? Pine warblers are here. Pine warbler, adult male, is somewhat similar to a yellow-throated vireo, but I recommend looking at the bill shape for one thing. It doesn't have that vireo bill, doesn't have that point at the end of the upper mandible, so it's a warbler with a nice little tiny pointed bill. It's got white wing bars, yellow throat and breast, and white under the tail, white undertail. Females are much paler brown color overall rather than bright yellowish. Let's see, yellow-rumped warbler has a yellow rump. It's also got yellow in the crown and yellow spots at the side of the breast. And overall, it's a bluish-gray stripy bird. Palm warbler, we have, where are they? Here. Palm warbler has a little chestnut crown and then nice fine streaks on the breast. It's got yellowish color in the throat and the undertail as well, white spots in the tail. Notice those fine streaks on the breast combined with that nice chestnut crown patch. Okay, prairie warbler is a bird that is yellowish and very streaked. This particular specimen is quite messy. It's got a little bit of a patch of black, a pattern of black around the face, and then streaks underneath. Notice on the prairie warbler, these little subtle chestnut streaks on the back. All right, Swainson's warbler is a big warbler with a pale bill. Brown warbler overall with a little bit more richly chestnut colored crown. That's Swainson's warbler. Tennessee warbler is superficially similar to the red-eyed vireo because it's greenish on the back and grayish on the crown, but it also doesn't have the vireo bill. So look at the shape of this bird's bill. It's got no hook on the upper mandible. It's just a straight, nice pointed warbler bill, and it's a smaller, slimmer, daintier bird as well, not the big, long vireo bill of the red-eyed vireo. And then your last required warbler species is black and white warbler, which is all black and white stripes. The males have dense black and white streaking on the throat and breast, whereas the females do not, but on the upper parts they have the black and white streaking on their head and on their back. And then a few extra credit warblers. You walk around to the other side. Let's just run through these quickly. American redstart is not on your list on your handout, but you can It's an easy one to learn. It's black with orange patches in the wing and tail. This is a young male American redstart. And you've got, let's see, Louisiana, oh no, this is a northern water thrush here. Sort of similar to a thrasher or a thrush, except it's a warbler. So it's got sort of, it's brown and streaked like a mimidae or a turdidae, except it's in the warbler family. Golden winged warbler is a beautiful bird with a black throat, black cheek, golden crown, and gold colored feathers in the wing. Here's magnolia warbler, which has a tail that is black at the tip and white at the base, and it's yellow with black streaks and a big black mask. And let's see, over here we have cerulean warbler, which we have a female here, which is this really subtly colored, beautiful bird that has a kind of a greenish blue color overall with white patches in the wing and a little greenish tint on the belly. Bay-breasted warbler has chestnut crown, chestnut throat and upper breast, and chestnut color running down onto the flanks, and white wing bars as well. We have ovenbird, not ovenbird warbler or oven warbler bird, just ovenbird. This is a streaked one as well that's sort of similar to a thrush, except it's got a warbler bill, and then look at the crown. It's got this little orange and black striped crown. I think that's it for your warblers. All right, last group of birds, we're gonna move on first to the family Emberizidae, and this includes sparrows and a couple of their relatives. This is maybe the trickiest group of birds that you need to know. I'm gonna point out some highlights that are important for remembering a few of these species. An easy one is the dark-eyed junco, which is gray above with a pale bill and white belly and white undertail. Dark-eyed junco. Let's see, another pretty easy one is the white-throated sparrow, which it's our biggest sparrow that we have in the collection. It's got yellow in the lores and it's got a white throat. Otherwise, it's chestnut colored above and kind of grayish below and unstreaked. Swamp sparrow, our specimen is missing its lower mandible, and overall, it's got a lot of chestnut color, bright chestnut color in the wings and tail, and that's what I look for on a swamp sparrow. Field sparrow has a tiny little pale bill, and it's unstreaked underneath, and then it's got a little pinkish wash across the breast, white wing bars. Chipping sparrow has a rusty crown and no streaks underneath. Overall, the sparrows have a relatively short triangle-shaped bill that they use for crunching seeds. Bachman sparrow has chestnut streaks on the head and back and a little subtle yellow stripe on the shoulder. And then look at song sparrow here. Song sparrow has heavy streaking on the breast that comes together in a central spot, and it has widely distributed gray and chestnut colored stripes on the back and the head. So those are some things to look for on those birds. Oh yeah, in that same family, the Emberizidae, we also have indigo bunting and painted bunting, which should be pretty easy. Indigo bunting, the adult males are bright blue like this, but they have that sparrow bill. Females are tougher. They're very plain, warm brownish gray. Same shape and size and bill shape, but none of that blue. Yeah, it's a tricky little bird. And then we only have an adult male painted bunting. It's a really distinctive bird with a blue head, greenish back, and red all the way from the throat down to the undertail. Beautiful adult male painted bunting. All right, moving on to family Icteriidae. Don't mix that up with the family Icteridae, which is coming up in a minute with the blackbirds and orioles. This is Icteriidae with 2 eyes in it. Yellow-breasted chat, which we have a taxidermy-mounted bird that's singing. It has a slightly down-curved bill, sort of like a thrush bill, yellow throat and breast, white belly. It's bigger than a warbler and a sparrow, smaller than a tanager, sort of a similar shaped bill to a thrush. It's all by itself in the family Icteriidae. All right, last 4 families here. Family Cardinalidae, which is grosbeaks and tanagers. We have northern cardinal, which we only have adult males, which have a black face and red plumage elsewhere, and then a pale, heavy seed-cracking bill. We have summer tanager, which is kind of a pale reddish color with a swelled up bill, not as heavy and seed-cracking shaped as a cardinal, and there's no crest and no black mask like a cardinal would have. And that's the males. Females are a more sort of orangish yellow color, but they have that same shape with that same swollen bill. And this bird here is a nice contribution from Perry and Keeley. Nice job, you two, on this bird. And then contrast the summer tanager here with scarlet tanager, which has a deeper, like Ole Miss colored red on the upper parts and underparts, and then it has jet black wings that contrast. Summer tanager has grayish wings, but they don't contrast like those black wings of the scarlet tanager do. All right, in this same family is dick thistle, and we just have this one bird, dick thistle here. It's similar shape to a tanager, but it's got more detailed coloration. A little chestnut color patch on the shoulder, white throat with a little black patch across the breast, and yellow on the lower breast and upper belly there, and a little yellow stripe over the eye. So more detailed plumage characteristics, a subtly colored bird. That's dick thistle. All right, moving on to family Icteriidae with 1 eye in the middle of that word. We have several species. Here's our tray. Let's start with the easiest ones first. So looking at Baltimore oriole, we have adult male Baltimore orioles, which are beautifully colored with orange rumps and breasts and bellies, and then black heads and black and white wings. Orchard oriole, the males are chestnut color with black heads and backs. Female orchard oriole we also have. It's a similar bird with the same kind of oriole bill shape, except it's yellow underneath with white wing bars. This taxidermy mounted bird here is a really faded, pale, dusty female orchard oriole. All right, red-winged blackbird. The males are obvious. They have these epaulets that are red and yellow. These are covert feathers on their wings that are red above and more of a pale yellowish below, but the females look pretty different. They're brownish and finely streaked. Okay, eastern meadowlark is found in Mississippi in the winter, and this is a bird shaped sort of like a starling with a short tail and a stocky neck and a straight, long, pointed bill, all yellow underneath with a black stripe across the upper breast, and detailed patterning of brown and black on the back. All right, and then look, over here we have brown-headed cowbird. Brown-headed cowbird, the adult males are pretty obvious. It looks like a blackbird with iridescent coloration, black coloration, and then it has a brown head. Females are the most plain, nondescript brown bird in existence. You can tell that it's a cowbird because of the shape of the bill, same as the adult male. Kind of a thick, heavy bill, sort of similar to, shorter than a grosbeak and shorter and fatter than a blackbird bill. The females are just plain brown with some subtle streaking. Moving to the left here, we have common grackle, which is a big blackbird. that is brownish on the body and iridescent blue-green on the head. And then it has a big, long, heavy bill as well. And the females are more brown with less brightly colored heads. That's what we see over here, and the males are bigger and more richly colored. Compare those with brewer's blackbird, which is seen over here, which is iridescent on the head like an adult, like a common grackle, but look at how much smaller the bill is, and then how it's got greenish iridescent coloration all over the body instead of that brown coloration on the body of the common grackle. And then lastly, look over here at the rusty blackbird, which doesn't have that greenish iridescent going down onto the body. And then if you look real carefully, you can see some rusty feather edges coming in here on the scapulars and on the back. And eventually those would become much brighter rusty color and be more obvious. So those are our rusty blackbirds there. All right, lastly, we have a couple of finches. We have purple finch, which we have a male purple finch here, which is like it's been dipped in wine. It's got a grosbeak sparrow type bill, but no obvious brown streaking on it, just that wine color that it's been dipped in. And then here's the female, which is similar in shape right there, but the female has a little white stripe on the face. The other finch that we have is American goldfinch, which we have in the corner of this tray over here. Adult male is bright black and yellow, black wings, black on the crown, and bright yellow on the breast and belly and back. And then the females and juvenile birds are more subtly colored, brownish and yellowish. Finally, our last species is house sparrow, which is in the family Passeridae. This is a different sparrow family. This is the Old World sparrows, not the New World sparrows. House sparrow is introduced to North America from Europe, and we have several specimens here. We have males, which are pretty nicely patterned birds with gray crowns, chestnut face patches, black throat and upper breast, and some wing bars. And then the female is a really plain grayish sparrow. I should have mentioned the family name for the finches, which is Fringillidae. So that's purple finch and American goldfinch are Fringillidae. All right, that's your review for the lab exam. I hope that helps. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll talk to you soon.